I love a good puzzle, a scientific oddity, a conundrum, or even a mental math problem will all keep me happily amused. My favourite, though, are things that are both true and yet seem to be in opposition. Lovely. There's nothing quite like a good paradox. My name is Ian Currey, and this is Thinking Out Loud. Come on, let me tell you what I think. I love mulling over a good puzzle. On the way to work sometimes I set myself a difficult math problem and then try to work out the answer in the time it takes to get to the airport. The other day I was very pleased with myself. I'd set myself a complicated problem that worked out with an answer of 97. 97! Well, that just happens to be my favourite prime number. Who else do you know that has a favourite prime number? I love that the first 9 prime numbers add up to 100, and then that 100 divided by 9 is 11, a prime number, with 7 ones after the point, 7 being another prime number. More importantly, I really enjoy how different scientific disciplines can arrive at the same conclusion when they have come from entirely different perspectives. Lovely. I also really enjoy seeing the quirks in science where ill-informed people will argue something based on flawed logic. Now, instead of wasting breath responding, I sometimes mentally argue the flawed position with logic and have a giggle at the consequences. Here's one for you. If you float as much ice in a glass as you possibly can, making sure it's totally full to the brim, what happens when you let the ice melt? Suppose the glass of water represents the ocean and the ice the North Pole's ice cap. Science can demonstrate nicely that the ocean would rise if that polar cap melts, but then why doesn't the glass ever overflow if you melt the ice? Ice that is floating in the sea takes up much more room than the water it's made from, so the level in the glass will go down, not up. Oh, this will start an argument, I'm sure, but then those lovely other factors aren't being included in this equation, are they? Do you see? The science here, when you take that one part of the equation in isolation, seems to show the exact opposite to what we've come to accept in recent years. Putting important concepts to the test is important, isn't it? I mean, without critical thinking, scientific challenge and discourse, just about anything goes. Sometimes seeing the things that need another look can be fun too. A few of my friends have been rather rude about electric cars. I hear them complaining about them and saying all sorts of silly things. Now, I haven't worked out what the real reason for their issues with this technology is, but having worked as an electrical and electronic engineer, some of the arguments against generating electricity centrally and efficiently and then transferring it to batteries in cars is flawed at best. I won't get into all that here, but just one example of the kind of anti-electric car thinking. The electrical grid just can't handle charging cars like that. I do chuckle rather easily. There they are, sitting in air-conditioned houses, cooking dinner in an electric oven, with a tumble dryer running in the background. All those lovely appliances slurping more electricity than a car ever would. But the grid can't handle it. But all that's a topic for another day, isn't it? when we run into an apparent paradox, sometimes we miss the whole truth and latch on to one fact that fits our argument, rather than taking a lovely long look at the overall situation, instead of just one facet. Jesus was a master of both creating such anomalies and answering the questions that go with them. I think Jesus would love a good paradox to discuss over dinner. Let me show you what I mean. Jesus was a real challenge to the establishment when he walked the earth, just as he is today. There are certain ways that religious people like things to be. There was then, as now, a sense that you have to do the right thing the right way, come what may, and that's all there is to it. The 10 Commandments, start at the top, keep it simple. Rule 1, you must not have any other God but me. Simple enough. But the way that was applied, the rules that built up around that one sentence, oh, now that's another story. All sorts of rules to make sure other rules couldn't be broken were invented. God's simple ideas are so often clouded by men making up things to suit them. Matthew, one of Jesus' friends, records a running battle going on between the religious leaders of the day and Jesus. Jesus had been rocking the boat a lot and really was pushing the rule-keeping religious numpties to the limit. I mean, I can hear them saying, it's just not right. You don't behave that way around the temple. Or, who does he think he is? Indeed. One conservative group had already had a go at straightening Jesus out, but tripped over their tongues and were made to look just a little bit silly. When the Pharisees heard that he had silenced the Sadducees with his reply, they met together to question him again. One of them, an expert in religious law, tried to trap him with this question. Teacher, which is the most important commandment in the law of Moses? Ooh, good question. There was no way out of this one. Jesus didn't have the option of doing what some people do here in America and plead the fifth, because answering would incriminate him. He had to answer. But did you ever wonder who on earth becomes an expert in religious law? Jesus replied, you must love the Lord your God with all your heart and all your soul and all your mind. This is the first and greatest commandment. And I can see the religious leaders thinking, gotcha. See, you have to do things our way to show you love God. But then Jesus goes on. A second is equally important. Love your neighbor as yourself. The entire law and all the demands of the prophets are based on these 2 commandments. Oh bother, he's got us. But do you see why? You see, the rules of the day, not unlike they still are so often all these years later, crushed the spirit of people, discouraged them, and made God look like a sad old man who doesn't want kids playing on his lawn. Keep off the grass. The reality is so different. The religious leaders then and now just like tidy boxes to put their rules into, and Jesus simply doesn't fit. That second part, love your neighbor as yourself, has so many implications that just seem to require rule breaking on just about every level. Perhaps a silly example, but walking with your neighbor on Sunday morning as they struggle with depression, rather than telling them, you need to go to church. Or taking an extra shift so that a friend can have time with their family, rather than remembering the Sabbath. Do you see what I mean? The rules are not what makes us love God. Oh, no. The idea of showing we love God by how we treat people, how we react to others, loving our neighbours, is exactly what Jesus was asking us to do and what the religious leaders were so mad about. Oh, and taking that Sunday shift for a friend. The rest of the commandment is, remember to observe the Sabbath day by keeping it holy. What's so unholy about work, I wonder? That specific situation, helping a friend, loving them, showing them what Jesus would do by taking that Sunday shift, probably would set the religious rule keepers chattering away as their heads exploded. Me? I'll add it to the list of things to think about on the way to the airport on Sunday. Until next time, goodbye.